Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Nissan Qashqai car. You might think that this is a great design since it is still the best-selling model in its class. It really has more advantages than disadvantages, but we advise you to know both before you decide to buy a Nissan Qashqai. This is the father of all crossovers that have appeared on the European market for the last 10 years and have definitely dominated it for several years. It was the Nissan Qashqai that set the direction for European motoring, and the dominant role is still played mainly by Asian brands. If you have never had a crossover before and you want to buy one, the Nissan Qashqai is a good car to start with. You just need to know a few things to buy such a car sensibly, and not under the influence of fashion or emotion. Qashqai is a perfect example, a representative of this segment, where you can see what a crossover really is and what it is not. A crossover is not quite the same as an SUV. The latter is a type of vehicle that combines the features of an off-road vehicle and a road vehicle. A crossover is usually not suitable for off-road driving at all. The Nissan Qashqai still has a large 20-centimeter ground clearance, but it is only intended to allow for a less stressful ride through a snowdrift or ruts on a dirt road, and most often to make it easier to drive up curbs. Nothing more. Choosing an engine is not difficult. Petrol units are fine, and there is nothing to worry about here. After buying the 1.6 version, it is worth checking the timing chain drive. The 2.0 engine also has a chain, which should be checked from time to time, but there are usually no problems with it. Both engines are not very recommended for gas power, but installing a good installation will quickly pay for itself. People looking for apparent savings can decide on the 1.5 DCI diesel. The engine does have a few typical faults, but they are quite cheap to fix. Dual-mass flywheels, on the other hand, are very expensive. Garages have already mastered even replacing bearings to perfection. It takes one day. Although it sounds absurd, such an operation should be considered after buying this engine version. If you take care of the oil, the bearings will last for a mileage of 200,000 kilometers or more. It is also worth remembering that only the 106 horsepower version from 2007 to 2010 did not have a DPF filter. The 1.6 DCI is much more expensive to repair, but also less prone to failures. It is stuffed with electronics, which sometimes likes to simply immobilize the car. A good solution is a 2-liter, powerful diesel, which usually reaches 200 to 250,000 kilometers without failures. The condition is to change the oil no later than every 20 kilometers. There are known cases of bearing seizure at longer intervals. There is also the issue of the drive system. The 4x4 volts version is not problematic, but it should be remembered that the clutch engaging the drive can disengage when it reaches a high temperature. Therefore, the Qashqai should not be driven dynamically and for a long time on snow or very loose sand. The same applies to the CVT automatic transmission, which is connected to the 2.0 petrol engine. If you want to extend its life, do not drive at high speed on the motorway for several dozen minutes. Also, avoid pressing the gas pedal to the floor to force a downshift. Interestingly, the same engine was also connected to a 6-speed automatic. Common Nissan Qashqai faults: heavily worn plastic interior parts, worn bearings in the 1.5 DA engine, accessory failures in the 1.5 DC engine, electronics failures in the 1.6 DC engine, rapid wear of suspension components, steering gear damage, stretching timing chain in petrol engines, AT transmission overheating. What to look for? The best versions of this model are the 2-liter versions regardless of fuel. Look for nicer and better finished cars after the facelift. What to avoid? If you like dynamic driving, I do not recommend the 2.0 engine with CVT. If you do not need it, do not look for the 4x4 volts version. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.